A fuel spill at 6 a.m. No ERP, no trained responders, no secondary contact who knew what to do. What happens next defines everything. By minute 7 of this video, you'll know exactly what to do when your site phone rings with that news at 2 a.m.
Here's what an uncontrolled site incident actually costs, and I'm not talking about the cleanup bill. An uncontrolled spill reaches drainage within minutes. Soil contamination, groundwater contamination. That's not a theory. That's a timer starting the moment it hits the ground. Regulatory shutdowns, days, sometimes weeks. Equipment idle, crew idle, schedule blown. Then come the fines. Remediation costs stacked on top of regulatory fines, stacked on top of reputation damage that follows your company into the next tender. And in the worst cases, one poorly handled incident can cancel your environmental permits entirely. That's not a fine. That's a project end.
So, what actually qualifies as an environmental emergency on a construction site? The obvious one, an uncontrolled release. Fuel, chemicals, hazardous materials, anything that leaves its containment boundary without your control, that's an emergency. Not a spill, an emergency. Less obvious, a sudden dust or noise event that breaches your permit thresholds. If your monitoring data spikes past the limit, you have a regulatory trigger. That counts. Concrete washout overflow reaching any watercourse or drainage channel. We'll come back to that one. And extreme weather events, wildfire, flood, significant rainfall. Anything that creates uncontrolled runoff or mobilizes site contaminants. Your site doesn't have to cause the weather. It has to respond to it.
Here's how this plays out on a real site. 6 a.m. An equipment operator walks his pre-start inspection at the refueling station, and there it is, pooling diesel on the ground, approximately 200 liters, already moving toward the unlined drainage channel 80 meters away. He looks for the spill kit. It's not there. The nearest bunded area? 80 meters in the other direction. He calls the site environmental officer. Off-site. The secondary contact? Unaware this scenario even existed in the ERP. This is the moment. Everything that happens next depends on what your team trained for, or didn't.
5 minutes. That's what you have before a 200-liter diesel spill reaches an unlined drainage channel. Step 1. Stop the source. Isolate that fuel valve. Right the drum. Get to the cause and shut it down. If you can't stop it, contain the flow direction. Step 2. Contain the spread. Your spill kit should be within 30 meters of every fuel storage area. Deploy the absorbent socks. Build the berm. Form a physical barrier between the spill and the drain now. Step 3. Notify. Trigger your ERP call chain immediately. Your site environmental officer, your site manager, your client if your plan requires it. The call chain exists so you don't have to think under pressure. You just follow it. Step 4. Protect. Exclude ignition sources from that zone. Restrict access. No one enters that spill area without the right PPE and a role in the response.
This is what a properly executed response looks like on the ground. Boom ring in place. Exclusion zone established. Response team on site within 4 minutes. That doesn't happen by accident. That's a trained team with a plan they've actually practiced.
Scenario 2, and this one is more common than the fuel spill. A concrete washout pit. Standard site infrastructure. Then an unexpected rainfall event, heavier than forecast, and the pit overflows. Gray alkaline slurry,
pH well above permit limits, running off the bund wall and pooling on bare earth. No secondary containment. The overflow reaches an unlined channel 30 meters from the site boundary. And then, the watercourse is at risk, which is when the community complaint arrives. Same day. That sequence, from overflow to complaint, can happen in under an hour. And without a specific emergency response procedure for washout events, your team is improvising. Under pressure. On the record.
Scenario 3. This one changes on you fast. A forklift clips an unsecured chemical drum in the storage area. The drum breaches on impact, liquid pooling immediately. First problem, the label is damaged. Nobody can read it. And the SDS, the safety data sheet that tells you exactly what you're dealing with, not accessible at the point of spill. Workers are evacuated, but no air monitoring is triggered because the procedure doesn't specify the trigger for this scenario type. And then, the wind shifts. The residential area is downwind. You have an unknown chemical, an unquantified release, no air data, and a community at potential risk. That is a multi-agency environmental emergency. And it started with a forklift traveling too close to an unsecured drum. So, what does a functional emergency response plan actually need? 5 elements. Non-negotiable. 1. Trigger criteria. Not generic language. Specific, site-specific definitions of what constitutes an emergency on your project. What volume, what substance, what threshold triggers the plan. 2. A call chain. Not a list of names in a drawer. A live, tested, numbered sequence. Primary contacts, backup contacts, client notification requirements. 3. Response procedures. Per emergency type. The fuel spill procedure is not the chemical breach procedure. They're different. Your plan has to reflect that. 4. Resources. Where is the spill kit? How many units? What access route? Can your team answer that at 6 a.m. without looking it up? And 5. Regulatory notification. Who do you call? In what time frame? With what information? This one trips up even experienced teams.
The incident has happened. You've contained it. Good. Now, the clock is ticking on something most site teams miss. In most jurisdictions and across project requirements, you have a mandatory notification window. 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, depending on the incident type and your contract requirements. Miss that window, and you've just committed a separate regulatory offense. Not the spill, the failure to notify. Those are 2 different liabilities on 2 different timelines. Document everything in real time. Time of discovery, time of your first call, who you spoke to, what you told them. Don't reconstruct it from memory at 5 p.m. And never, ever assume someone else made the notification call. Confirm it, log it, keep it.
If it isn't written, it didn't happen. Photo, timestamp, log entry. Every response step documented in real time. That record is your protection. From regulatory challenge, from contractual dispute, from the question asked 6 months later. What did you do, and when did you do it? Your ERP is only as good as the last time someone practiced it. Tabletop drills. Walk your team through the call chain, verbally, before a real emergency forces them through it under pressure. Does your backup contact know they're the backup? Have you asked recently? Field drills. Physical. Put the team in front of the spill kit and ask them to deploy it. Where is the spill kit? Really? Not on the plan. On the ground. On your site. Today. Post-drill reviews are where the gaps appear. Before an auditor finds them. Before a regulator finds them. Before a real emergency exposes them. And ISO 14001 Clause 8.2 is clear. The requirement is not to have a plan. The requirement is to test it, review it, and provide documented evidence that you did. Not just the plan, evidence. Containment is step 1. Root cause investigation is step 2. Don't move on from an incident without understanding how it happened. Not so you can assign blame, so you can fix the condition that made it possible. Document the cause, contributing factors. What was the equipment condition at the time of the incident? What was the procedure that should have prevented it, and why didn't it? Corrective actions need to be closed out. Not logged, not assigned, actually completed, verified, signed off. And lessons learned need to be shared with the team, at a toolbox talk, on the site notice board, in the next environmental induction. Not buried in a report folder that nobody opens until the next audit. That's not lessons learned. That's lessons stored.
Let's connect what we've covered to the formal standards, because this is what gets audited. ISO 14001 Clause 8.2 requires more than a written ERP. It requires that the plan has been tested through drills or exercises, reviewed after incidents, and updated when changes occur on site. The test is required, not optional. IFC EHS guidelines extend the requirement to community notification. If your incident has a potential impact on surrounding communities, they need to know. That's a formal requirement, not a courtesy. For NEOM and Aramco projects specifically, real-time incident reporting to the client environmental team is a contractual requirement. Not daily, real-time. All of these frameworks have one thing in common. They don't accept intent. They don't accept process. They require evidence.
4 questions. Answer them honestly for your own site. Does your ERP exist, and is it accessible? Not in a folder on a drive. On site, right now, printed, laminated, findable in the dark. If the answer is no, that's your first action. Do all team members know their role? Tested, not assumed. Have they actually run through it? Or do they just know that a plan exists? Are your spill kits stocked, located, and clearly signed? When did you last physically check the stock level? Not the inspection sheet, the kit itself. And are your regulatory contact numbers confirmed and live? A number from last year's plan that's been disconnected is not a contact number. It's a false sense of security.
Here's the thing about environmental emergency response. Every emergency starts before it happens. It starts in the ERP review meeting that nobody skipped, the drill where the team found the gap, the corrective action that got closed, not just logged. Your ERP is only as good as your last drill. That's the standard, not the document date, not the sign-off, the last time your team actually practiced it. If this video helped you think differently about what's on your site, subscribe to EnviroVerge for the full Compliance Masterclass series. Every video is built for site-based professionals who need practical, field-ready knowledge, not theory. And download the free Emergency Response Checklist, link in the description. Take it to your next site walkthrough. Environmental knowledge, field-ready. That's what this channel is for, and that's what you just equipped yourself with.